The challenge with the 1031 exchange companies, you got to be very careful about this, right? A lot of they commingle the funds, and it's dangerous, right? So they have all these funds coming in from these different exchanges, and they put it all into one big pile. And even then, some of these companies, the ones that aren't doing what they should be doing, they go, lend it or get arbitrage on it, and then something happens, and then they're not able to use the exchange.
They go to you.
Yep.
Okay. You basically do a promissory note with them at 9%. Okay. Once the property sells, that money comes to you. Is that correct?
It comes to the trust, Charles Schwab, right? Yeah, they have third-party access. They can see everything online. Nothing moves out their approval, their signature. They become the creditor. The trust is its own entity, not commingled in any other trust or any other accounts. It only does business with them. But keep going.
So they still retain control over their investment.
They retain controls. So you probably had some lenders lend to you on some of your senior housing facilities. Yes, John?
Yes.
Yeah. So do they have control over the day-to-day or control over the property? No, not unless you don't pay the loan, right? Then they foreclose and they take back full control, right? But they have controls and protections in place. So this is the biggest thing for people. Most entrepreneurs or investors are used to having what's called unilateral 100% ownership control. Although if you think about it, if they're working with banks, they still have to, be beholden to the banks. They have to send the income and expenses statement. They have to obviously pay on time. They need to get fire insurance. They need to do all these different things to make sure they're staying within the boxes of the lending requirements. So the lender has controls, but the owner of the real estate has ownership, right? They're the day-to-day. So it's basically reversing it, right? So what they're doing is they're giving up like the day-to-day management of the trust in exchange for controls and the ability to foreclose as a bank. However, nothing moves without their approval or their signature, right?
Wow.
So that's important to understand. So really, what do you want to know? You want to know that the funds aren't going to go somewhere that you don't want them to go. They're not going to be invested in something that you don't want them to be invested in. That they're not going to be paying, only paying the fees that have been agreed upon, right? So like you have all the access to see everything. We have a third-party tax preparer that does all the P&Ls, and it's like a C corp tax return. It issues all of the tax documents, right? So that's all of that piece of it. We also have a third-party tax attorney CPA that provides a lifetime audit defense, and it's also another eyes and ears. A lot of times we have a third-party financial advisor that's working, like at Charles Schwab. We have the third-party trustee. So like we have all of these third parties that are all, in a sense, kind of being the checks and balances of the structure and of the process and of the movement of funds. And so all of that helps to create the transparency and the certainty of like, okay, I know that I can trust this. By the way, if they've ever done a 1031 exchange, guess what? They have given up control. Right?
That's right.
They just don't, for 45 to 180 days, right? Yeah. The challenge with the 1031 exchange companies, you got to be very careful about this, right? A lot of they commingle the funds, and it's dangerous, right? So they have all these funds coming in from these different exchanges, and they put it all into one big pile. And even then, some of these companies, the ones that aren't doing what they should be doing, they go, lend it or get arbitrage on it, and then something happens, and then they're not able to use the exchange. Like this is a very, serious thing, and like, people take that for granted, that when you give up controls for a 1031 exchange, whereas the deferred sales trust is never commingled, nothing moves out your approval or your signature, it's its own entity, its own accounts. So those are how we keep the protections there, John.